So I had a friend of mine that we became friends in college. Remember he told me one day this experience he had when he was in high school. He was I think a freshman, or certainly a freshman or sophomore. He was on the bus, and there was this kid on the bus who pretty much terrorized everybody else. He said he was like a character in a movie. He was just like this awful, horrible bully. You couldn't believe the way he just abused and frightened kids. Just a terrible bully. He said he'd walk down the aisle of the bus and just single kids out and beat them up, humiliate them. He'd steal things from them if they had something decent for lunch that day. He'd take their food. Other kids, he was forcing them to bring in like breakfast food for the ride to school. Just crazy. He told me one day there was a kid sitting in his seat, in his own seat, and the kid had like a science project that I guess we had to bring in that day, and the science project is sitting right next to the kid on the seat. The bully walks down, sees the project, and threw it out the window. Like, it's just like a really pretty bad kid. It was like he owned the bus, and he knew it. He said even the bus driver, my friend said, was afraid of him. He'd always see the bus driver, that big kind of rear view mirror thing that the bus driver's got. He can see everybody behind them. He'd always be looking at it, looking in. And he had this like nervous look on his face when this kid was terrorizing everybody. Anyway, one morning, my friend gets on the bus. It was right after Christmas. I think it was the first day back. And he had this cool sweatshirt. I think the kid was from near Buffalo. I think it was a Buffalo Bills sweatshirt, like a cool hoodie. And he took it off, and he's got it sitting on the seat next to him. The bully walks down, sees it, picks it up, kind of holds it up in front of himself to see if it would fit, and he starts walking away with the hoodie. And this kid was crazy. So my friend, who was scared to death and a whole lot smaller, stood up. He was like, I'm not parting with this. To himself, he says, I'm not giving up this hoodie. So he walks and he pulls it back, tries to pull it back from the bully, and bully can't believe it, and he stops, and there's like a little bit of a scuffle. And in the course of pulling to get the hoodie back, the bully slips. It had been raining out, and the floor of the bus was wet and slick. So the bully slipped and falls, lands on the seat next to him, and then lands on the floor. So it was like a pretty not graceful fall. And it looked like everybody thought that my friend knocked him down, and he didn't. He didn't at all. It looked like it, but just the whole little back and forth, and it was the slipping. But they said it was just like the reaction, they were stunned. Number one, that anybody stood up to him. And now that this kid was laying on the wet floor, he got up, he was all wet. It looked like he knocked him out or knocked him down. And the bully just retreated. My friend thought he was a dead man. But the kid just was so mortified, he just walked to the back to where he sat. And my friend said, and this is what I remember my friend saying, and this is really my point to you guys. He said, from that moment on, everything changed. Life on the bus was different. Like this thug had just been removed. He was there still physically, but he just kind of sat there, and he became much more low-key. The bullying stopped. Remember in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy throws the bucket of water? She throws it on the scarecrow because he's on fire, but the water hits the witch, and the witch starts melting. And all the witch's soldiers, they're thrilled. Like she's finally gone. They killed the witch. He said it was almost like that. I mean, nobody said anything, but everybody was so glad that this punk had been silenced. It's like every boxing movie you've ever seen usually is like a version of that, right? The champion gets taken down, knockout punch. After that, everything changed. You know, that bus drama, the takedown, that's kind of why we're here this morning, believe it or not. That bus drama, what happened on that bus is kind of what happens with Easter. You know, in Jesus' day, everybody lived in fear of Caesar and Caesar's government, the Roman government. Everybody was scared to death. They were ruthless. They were the ultimate bully on the bus. And the cross, the threat of crucifixion, kept everybody in line. Because crucifixions were indescribably brutal, painful, terrifying. And they were very public. And that was very intentional. The Roman government was basically, don't mess with Caesar. You mess with him, you'll find yourself on a cross. And it just kept people in line. It wasn't that different than the dynamics on the bus. And then Jesus takes down the cross. The cross doesn't stop Jesus. This cross stopped everybody before Jesus. Everybody else died thanks to the cross. And Jesus did too, for a couple of days. That's what we did on Good Friday. But it didn't last. He returns. He's back. You know, even Caesar, the most powerful person on the planet, couldn't take down death. He couldn't beat death. Even Caesar died. Tyrants always die. Bullies on the bus don't last forever. But Jesus does, and Jesus did. And that's not just like a nice thought. Like, that's got real implications for us. Resurrection does. Resurrection has consequences. I lost a good friend of mine this week, a buddy of mine that I grew up with. His name is Mike. He died on Tuesday, on his 58th birthday. He died on his birthday. He was battled cancer for about 6 years. The last two were almost like a crucifixion. It was brutal. This guy Mike was loved by everybody, and that's not a joke. And it's not an exaggeration. I'm telling you, he was one of those people. We all know them. There aren't a lot of them out there, but like those people that just everybody loves. They make you feel like you're the most important, only person in the world when you're with them, and they're sincere about it. So we're all kind of sick. We're all so sad. We kind of knew it was coming. But it doesn't make it any less painful or any less sad. Like we can't believe he's gone. My friends and I, certainly his family. And he had friends everywhere. Like just these from work. He had a house out east in Southold. He had a boat people, just loved. And I can't believe I won't see him again. We went to the wake. I went to the wake last night, and there's thousands of pictures. They make these collages. So there was one which is sort of when he was young, and a bunch of us are in them. High school, college, post-college years. Just great pictures, great memories. Anyway, there's one that I saw, and it was, we're all out on Block Island. This may be about 10 years ago, and we're all sitting at this bar, this really cool place. It's right on the water, great spot. We're all drinking mudslides. Oh, Mudslides are proof that God exists. Anyway, I was looking at this picture, and it was just, we looked so happy. This group of friends together, and I thought to myself, I'll never have a mudslide with Mike again. And that's just kind of like crushing, isn't it? I mean, you don't know Mike, but you all have your version of Mike. We all do. Whether it's family, a friend or family, it doesn't matter. His wife, Michelle, this morning texted me a eulogy that she wrote. It's powerful, it's very beautiful. It's very kind of poetic. She doesn't even have to really say much about his life because everybody knew about him. Everybody wanted to know him. Everybody wanted to be with him. The eulogy, she does this whole, I told you, he loved boats. He was a serious boat guy. And she describes this scene where there's a bunch of people at a dock, and there's a boat right there, and he's on the boat. And all of us are on the shore or on the dock. And she kind of mentions groups of his friends from the old days, and certainly his kids and herself. And then she says the boat starts to leave. And the people on the dock are just heartsick. And he leaves, and the boat just kind of goes off into the horizon. But then she says, at a certain point, you see in the distance another dock, and you can see people there. And she says the boat gets closer. Mike is getting closer to that dock. And then she starts to describe the people on that dock, and it's the people that Mike loved who went before him, his dad, his grandparents, and a couple of friends, and all the people on the other side. And they can't wait to see him, and they can't wait to be with him. It's very beautiful. What if it's not true? What if that's just a nice, symbolic set of images? But what if it's not really true? Do you ever think that? I think we probably all do, to varying degrees. We don't want to think that. We're almost embarrassed to admit that we do, but I think there are at certain points, we say, like, what if there is no boat? What if there is no dock? What if this is it? I mean, I'm a priest for over 30 years, and I'd be lying if I told you that, like, sometimes that doesn't creep into my head and my heart. I don't want to believe that. It's certainly not my job to communicate that. But what if this is it? It's not it. This isn't it. It doesn't make sense that this would be it. We hear in the first reading that we heard, witnesses are being talked about. They were very specific. They wanted us to know about the witnesses to the risen Jesus. And what happened? What happened to the people that saw Jesus, allegedly risen from the dead? How did they die? Most of them died the way he did. Most of them were murdered. Most of them were martyred. Because they knew he rose. They knew he was real. Because they saw him. And when the bullies started saying, enough with the Jesus talk, enough with the rose from the dead nonsense, they were like, no, not enough. They stepped it up. And the bullies said, well, you either shut up or you're going to be as dead as he was on Good Friday. And they all kind of said, well, we're not going to shut up because we know he rose. I mean, think about this. Hey, we've all had things happen to us, like when we've been embarrassed, right? Something happened, we did something stupid, we got caught in some way, and we tried to kind of cover it up maybe initially. We didn't come clean. We make up a story to kind of justify what happened or to deny the embarrassment. Maybe the apostles did that. Maybe they realized, let's for a moment say, yeah, they realized he didn't rise from the dead. He died on Good Friday and that was it. And they stole his body because they didn't want to be embarrassed. They wouldn't want to look like fools. They had given up their lives to follow this guy, and then Good Friday happens. They look like idiots. So maybe in their own insecurity, they get together and they're like, all right, let's say he rose, so we don't look like idiots, so we look credible. And let's say that went on for a little while. Maybe they did that. But at a certain point, like I said, they were told, you keep saying this, you're going to die. Do you think they would have kept the hoax going? Do you think they would have kept the lie going if the alternative was like, if you keep saying this, we're going to kill you? Like, come on. You know they would have come clean. But they didn't. We've got a history of people who went to their death saying, this guy rose. This isn't it. Hey, the gospel I just read, who's the first witness to the risen Jesus? Mary Magdalene. We're like, okay, cool. Like that, most of us probably don't think twice. In the day of Jesus, that would have been absurd. Because in Jesus' day, women, it was a disgrace the way they were treated. They weren't considered credible witnesses at all. It'd be like having like a 4-year-old be your primary witness. You never do that. That's the way women were seen. If they made this thing up, there's no way they've got women as witnesses. They'd have the most credible people saying, he rose from the dead. They were just telling the truth. This is what happened. This isn't it. You know, some people, it's like, well, why couldn't he just appear? Why couldn't he just appear to everybody? Like Thomas the Apostle, remember doubting Thomas? He was lucky. Jesus showed up. In fact, Jesus said that, hey, you're lucky. You got to see me. You got to see the scars on my hand. But everybody won't. How come? Why couldn't he just, wouldn't it be easier if there was like, we knew he rose from the dead, and we knew he was in heaven, and we didn't have doubts when people like Mike die, and we kind of sort of maybe wonder, wouldn't it be better if we had evidence? Yeah, that would have taken our freedom away though, right? God is love, and love is freedom, and God lets us choose. He hopes we choose faith, but he doesn't force it. Hey, remember like in The Godfather? Remember Don Corleone? What was the expression? I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Like in other words, the Godfather forced it. Whatever he wanted, the Godfather forced it on business people, whoever it was he wanted from. There was no freedom. It was imposed. That's not God. God doesn't do that. God gives us the freedom to say no. He gives us the freedom to walk away. But nobody did. They didn't walk away, the apostles, these witnesses. It seems to me, there's our proof. And the people we love are our proof. Like my friend Mike. You know, I told you he was a boat guy. He had the last boat he had was a big one. And, you know, he was a serious fisherman. The name of the boat was Game Changer. Game Changer. I don't even know why. I don't know why he named it that. But that was the name of it. Well, what happened today, 2,000 years ago, was a game changer. Things were never the same. So mudslides with my friend Mike. I look forward to that. Don't you with yours?